Good morning and welcome to World News here on TVP World. I'm Diana Skaya. The leaders of Germany, France, the UK and Poland are meeting in Kyiv today to discuss a 30-day ceasefire proposal supported by both the US and Ukraine's European allies. The meeting comes a day after Russian President Vladimir Putin hosted his allies in Moscow for the Victory Day parade celebrating the Red Army's victory in World War II. Now, British Prime Minister Keir Starmer, French President Emmanuel Macron, German Chancellor Friedrich Merz, and Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk have met in Przemysl, a Polish town near Ukraine. Ahead of the visit, the four leaders called on Russia to agree to a full and unconditional 30-day ceasefire and warned that they will increase the economic pressure on Russia's war machine until it does so. A new package of sanctions is also being discussed should Russia refuse the 30-day ceasefire deal. The U.S. Embassy in Ukraine's capital, Kyiv, has cautioned against the threat of a major airstrike on the city in the coming days. Now, its website indicated, quote, the U.S. Embassy in Kyiv has received information concerning a potentially significant air attack that may occur at any time over the next several days. The embassy advised American citizens in Kyiv to be ready to seek immediate shelter in case of an aerial assault. Now, the warning comes amid Russia's self-declared ceasefire from May 8 to May 11, announced in connection with the Friday celebrations of Victory Day. Ukraine declined Russia's invite to the temporary three-day ceasefire, opting instead for the U.S.'s proposal for an unconditional 30-day truce, originally put forth in March, to which Russia has repeatedly said no to. Germany's new Chancellor Friedrich Merz said there is a chance for a 30-day ceasefire in Ukraine following talks with Presidents Donald Trump and Volodymyr Zelenskyy. After meeting with NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte, Merz said, quote, the ball is now in Moscow's court.
There is a chance beyond this weekend to achieve a 30-day ceasefire in Ukraine. Ukraine is in favor of it and agrees to it. America initiated it and proposed it. The major European states fully agreed to it. I also assume that this applies to the entire European Union and also to NATO. The ball is now entirely in Moscow's court. It is only there that the decision will be made as to whether there is a chance of facilitating a longer ceasefire in Ukraine.
To also be able to defend ourselves and to keep the deterrence and defense at the level we need only to spend much more, but also to build that defense industrial base across the Atlantic, across the whole Euro-Atlantic area, including the United States and Canada and all the European countries in NATO. It's crucial. We need to do both. I said it before. The Russians are producing in 3 months in ammunition what the whole of NATO, which is 25 times bigger than Russia in terms of the overall economy. We produce in 1 year in ammunition what they produce in 3 months. So that's not sustainable. So it is both spending and more production.
Foreign ministers of European countries, mostly from the EU, held an informal meeting in the Ukrainian city of Lviv on Friday. Now, on their visit to the city, they voiced their support for the formation of a special tribunal for Russian war crimes in Ukraine. Now, a total of 35 European country delegations were present in Lviv, with around 20 of them represented at foreign minister level. Also present were the EU's chief diplomat Kaja Kallas and 2 top Ukrainian officials, Prime Minister Denis Shmyhal and Foreign Minister Andriy Sybiha. Participants in the meeting also visited Lviv's military cemetery, where they paid their respects to the soldiers killed during the Russian invasion. Polish Foreign Minister Radosław Sikorski praised the turnout of EU foreign ministers on their joint visit to Lviv and called for more sanctions against Russia.
The future of Ukraine is in the European Union, not in the Commonwealth of so-called independent states. I am very pleased with the turnout of EU foreign ministers. British officials are also here. Yesterday we had the informal Gymnich meeting in Warsaw. Today we are in Lviv. Just a moment ago, I saw the display of Russian equipment shot down by Ukraine. Unfortunately, we find that there are a lot of Western components in these Iranian Shahed drones and other bombs that Russia is sending against what it's calling its Ukrainian brethren, so our sanctions need to be tightened.
Ukraińskich braci, jak to mówią, jest niestety sporo zachodnich komponentów.
In the event of an attack on Poland, France would be able to mobilize its military forces within 30 days. French President Emmanuel Macron said after he and Polish Premier Donald Tusk signed a new Polish-French treaty. The deal deepens ties between the two countries and includes a mutual assistance clause.
Together with Poland and our European partners, we decided to take a more active role in bearing the responsibility of our defense. This is a strategic awakening in the field of European defense, which picked up speed since the European Council in March. The point is to make use of all financial options available, both public and private, and to direct these funds into the European defense industry. When it comes to our capability to mobilize our military, we have an appropriate decision-making process described in our constitution. We have the appropriate organization of our army, we have the necessary investments, we have command systems. So, I have no doubts that we could facilitate such a sudden deployment of troops if worst comes to worst. The topic of security has become increasingly important. We're not only talking about mutual military guarantees, cooperation of our defense industries, cooperation in the field of the newest technologies, and nuclear cooperation. All of that is important, but so is politics. We don't hide the fact that this treaty will greatly strengthen the European structure of stability. If we believe in the meaning of broader agreements, we both put in a lot of work into making the Weimar Triangle an even better tool to solving problems in Europe, then this treaty will most definitely strengthen this format. I know that people not only in Paris and Warsaw look with hope at our friendship and mutual cooperation, now strengthened by this treaty.
24 heads of state attended the annual victory parade in Moscow, a textbook display of Russian propaganda in action. And even though the spotlight was stolen by heavyweight attendees such as China's President Xi Jinping, much controversy was caused by the presence of Slovakian Prime Minister Robert Fico, the only EU leader who made his way to Moscow.
In Moscow, the annual victory parade has come and gone. And while it's meant as a celebration of the end of the Second World War in Europe and the defeat of Nazi Germany, the same tanks and armored vehicles are now invading Ukraine. An occupation reminiscent not only of Nazi Germany, but the Soviet Union itself.
We in Poland know it very well because 1st of September 1939 marks the date that Nazi Germany attacked Poland, but 17 days later, on the 17th of September 1939, it was Soviet Union, without actually formally claiming the state of war between Poland and Soviet Union, decided to attack absolutely unprovoked.
The list of foreign guests at this year's parade included some of Russia's closest allies, including China's Xi Jinping and North Korea's Kim Jong-un, as well as a major BRICS partner in the shape of Brazilian President Da Silva. And it was China which was especially visible at the parade.
For one, you have an enormous amount of Chinese troops who will be marching through Red Square lockstep with Russian troops. So just the symbolism there is quite telling.
But there was also a notable lack of other partners. India's Narendra Modi was not in attendance due to the recent military clashes with Pakistan, while Azerbaijan's absence is putting question marks over its relations with Moscow.
They understand in reality that they are more or less isolated, but if they can show cosmetically, at least the optics, that they are not so isolated, that goes a long way.
And yet it was the presence of two European leaders which caused the most controversy. Serbian President Aleksandar Vučić was accompanied by the only EU leader at the celebrations, Slovakian Prime Minister Robert Fico.
Attending the victory parade of those who bomb cities, hospitals, and kindergartens who, for 3 years, have caused the deaths of more than 1 million people or serious injuries. Attending this parade is an act of shame. It's a disgrace.
To go to Moscow and to shake hands with the person responsible for these murders, for these wars, for all these crimes that are happening right now. It's for me really disgusting feeling.
Show me your friends and I will tell you who you are. EU Foreign Policy Chief Kaja Kallas echoed that sentiment during an informal summit in Warsaw ahead of the parade.
Member states have a lot of questions. Who is your friend with whom you are really dealing with?
The Slovakian leader hasn't taken these comments well, telling Kaja Kallas in a letter posted on social media that she has no right to criticize him, while the Slovakian Prime Minister appears hell-bent on keeping up good relations with Vladimir Putin.
If someone tries to build another Iron Curtain, I guarantee you, I'll grab a hacksaw and start cutting through it.
Even Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orbán, who has long been an outspoken ally to the Russian president, knows that attending the victory parade would not do him any favors domestically.
For the Hungarian people, the end of World War II had a different significance than for other countries that participated in it.
And it's no wonder. The end of the Second World War in Central Eastern Europe meant the beginning of a new regime, the Soviet one. Hundreds of thousands of people were killed because of Soviet and communist repressions in countries such as Poland, Slovakia, the Czech Republic and Hungary after 1945. Today, Russia continues to celebrate its Soviet past, both in symbols and in actions. For TVP World, I'm Kazimierz Łysiak.
With the relationship between the United States and China on shaky grounds, the presence of China's Xi Jinping next to President Vladimir Putin at that victory parade in Moscow can be viewed as symbolic and strategic. This is what Velina Chakarova, the founder of FACE geopolitical consultancy, told TVP World. Let's listen in.
At the same time, this visit has been quite symbolic and certainly quite strategic if you consider also the precarious situation between China and United States right now. And what comes next on the Xi Jinping's agenda is definitely the US-China trade negotiations in Switzerland. So it was very important from Chinese perspective to show to the world that China has one quite a predictable and solid partner, and vice versa. Same goes for Russia. So it's not just symbolic in terms of celebrations of Victory Day.
Kyiv has accused Budapest of running a spy network in Ukraine aimed at obtaining intelligence about its defenses. After Hungary expelled 2 employees of the Ukrainian embassy in Budapest, Ukraine responded correspondingly. Oz Chatterjee reports from Kyiv.
Ukraine's security service, the SBU, has arrested 2 Ukrainian citizens on suspicion of being part of a Hungarian spy network operating within Ukraine's borders. The 2 citizens, who are former members of the Ukrainian military, are being held in custody on suspicion of state treason, being accused of intelligence gathering for Hungary. Now, the SBU released a statement about this on Friday. Let's take a listen to that.
The purpose of this network was to gather information about the military security of the Zakarpattia region, identify vulnerabilities in the region's ground and air defenses, and study the socio-political views of local residents, particularly how they might behave if Hungarian troops entered the region.
Now, the Hungarians have responded with Hungarian Foreign Minister Peter Szijjártó dismissing the allegations as propaganda. Let's take a listen to what he had to say in his response.
In many cases, anti-Hungarian propaganda has turned out to have no basis whatsoever. So I ask everyone to show caution for any such Ukrainian propaganda. When we get any details or official information on the present case, we will be able to deal with it. Until then, I have to classify this as propaganda to be treated with caution.
And Budapest has responded by expelling 2 members of Ukraine's diplomatic mission to Hungary from Hungary, accused of what they say spying. So this certainly marks a deterioration in relations between Budapest and Kyiv, and also now raises a question for the European Union on if they are going to act on any of this information being shared by the Ukrainians. It's Oz Chatterjee reporting from Kyiv for for TVP World.
And that's all for this edition of World News here on TVP World. But don't go away. Up next, World Talks.